Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to go ahead and straighten the shaft. Now this, we've done ones at different thicknesses, like I think I made a video on 3/4 inch shafting, but this is 4 and 15, or 3 and 15/16 shaft, 1045 TGP, turn ground polish shafting, and we're just going to check it for run out. Same principle, I got it marked every foot right here, okay? And I'm going to just map out the high and low spots. We made these self-aligning rollers. When you put this on here, you want to be mindful, like it should spin relatively freely, okay? And because sometimes even with the weight of this, I think the shaft's 800 pounds, you can get grooves worn in it. Obviously we've cut our keys because when you cut your keys, they put some stress, they can relieve some stress from the shaft. So we're doing this after the fact of cutting our keys. So like I said, we're just gonna go through and map this. Now you don't need a precision table for this because we're just referencing it. We're looking for total indicated runout, okay? So it's not that we're gonna be running this and checking the concrete floor. That's not what we're doing. It's just on a weighted block here. We're gonna grab it. So there's no sense doing it right here because you're not gonna be able to see that that's bent, right? So I marked it out like probably 1 feet is right here, but we're gonna do it right here. So so you can see which side's the high, and we're gonna mark the high sides, okay? Okay, so now keep in mind, like the high is in this direction, okay? So this isn't that bad, because so what we're gonna do is, like I can tell by looking at that, the shaft's not gonna be ridiculously bad, but that's maybe 1 or 2 thou. There's no sense doing that. Like at this point, I'd start with 5 thou, 4 or 5 thou. I'd only start recording that, right? So right here, we're only about 2 thou total indicated runout, meaning it's only 1 thou out, okay? So I'm not even gonna bother with that. Okay, so you can see it's progressing. Now it's about 3 thou. So now it probably doesn't hurt to just start doing this. And so now I've done this going this way here, and we're just gonna do it again, because what we're gonna see is a little bit of a pattern. Okay, so I've already marked this. You can see I got +4 there. So you can see +3, +4, you know, so this is gonna tell us a story, and we're marking it at the point like at which where the indicator's the highest, okay? So then we can know if this shaft's kind of all like this. We don't wanna mark it when it's like this or like this, so we're marking it when it's the highest. Okay, so here's, now, and look, like you can see even on a 4-inch shaft how much weight. So you can see how much I'm deflecting that, right? So I'm not putting any influence going down. I'm just spinning with my hands. So again, let's say 4 thou. Okay, and again, I've already labeled that one. So I just want, what's important isn't the 4 thou. I want to make sure that what we'll be able to see is if there's like kind of a helix in this bend too. So it's not that it's 4 thou out. I really want to make sure that we got it in the right position. So Okay. Again, because if I started seeing like the numbers kind of wrap around here, then we're into some harder straightening, right? We're compared to just a straight line with some stress in it. Okay, so okay, here's my other mark. That's about 5 thou. Let's see. Something to keep in mind is if these rollers aren't straight, or sometimes with the weight of the shaft, especially when you get this heavy, you can make a groove in it. So I just kind of put it past the groove here. It's not that big of a deal, but you want to try to keep it as far out as you can. The other thing about that is just if you get in a habit of rolling forward and then rolling backwards, you're not going to get that issue of it walking out like it just did there. Okay, so here we are. So this is 5 thou. So this really isn't that bad. Like I've seen some where they're 50 or 100 thou out. So this is 6 right here. Okay, I got that marked. And again, as we get closer to the end, you're going to see less and less of it. Okay, so that's about 3 thou. Okay, I got that marked. Okay, so if you look down at the top, everything's all being fairly consistent and straight. Okay, so what this map is telling me right here is 6 thou. Okay, so I'm curious. I almost feel like the peak of it might be somewhere in here. I'm not 100% certain. Or actually, it might be over here, like, because you see this is 5, this is 5. So what I'm gonna do is, like, I probably might just put a dab of heat here and a dab of heat there, okay? Because now what we're gonna do is kind of pinch things like plasticine, right? So imagine this is a bit of plasticine, and then if you kind of pinch this, what would it do? It would kind of you tension this side, and it would bow it this way, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a little bit of heat right here, a little dot. It doesn't need much, right? Because this isn't very bad. This is pretty good. I'm just gonna put a little dot here and see it react. We'll put an indicator on it to watch it move, and yeah, what happens is the material. The best way I can describe heat straightening is the atoms, or the material expands, but because it's in a bar, it's kind of held together, okay? So it's almost like if you had a straight bar here, and then this here expanded, okay? This tension of the bar is probably gonna keep it straight too, right? So what ends up happening with the heat is the material expands a bit, and then as it cools down, it contracts, okay? And so you almost pinch, like put a little pinch here, and it kind of acts as a little bend. Okay, so did I do a half decent job explaining that? Okay, so that's kind of how that works. You can add more stress into this if you push down on it and all this stuff, but we're not gonna get super into that. This is like more precision related stuff but if you had to do weld straightening and all this stuff, you can kind of counterbalance weld distortion with so you can counterbalance weld distortion with counter clamping and like bending it opposite. So like I said, we're just gonna put a little bit of heat. I'm gonna get an air gun and I'm gonna give it a blast as well. If you're doing this for the first time, it's better to do it 10 times than it is to go over a shot and then you go. Some people think we're gonna get the thing red hot, and that's totally not what we're gonna do. We're just gonna put a little section of heat in there. Doing this for the first time, what I'd recommend is using like a brazing tip, so one of these, it just puts the smallest amount of heat in there, because really that's how you're gonna be chasing yourself, right? And then what'll end up happening, if you put the heat into this, and over time vibration can stress relieve things, and you can end up, if you put too much heat into stuff, eventually over time when it's running, it'll actually straighten out again or bend back again. So you really don't want to put a whole lot of heat in there if you don't have to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this thing barely on. Okay, it's just barely on. Now what I want to make sure I don't have any influence over the direction of this. Okay, so can you see that pretty good? Okay, like you can see the dial? Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put, so you can see I got no influence on this, and it's moving. Okay, so we're gonna go slow. That's probably not enough, but again, it's better to go slow than too much. It's like when there's color, that means you've taken it to a point where it's gotten a little bit more flexible. The other thing to note is you can do this with compressed air, or you can do this with water. I have a little pump. I just didn't want to set it up right now because this one isn't that bad. But if it was out quite a bit, I have a little pump that I put the water, a little aquarium pump on an indicator stand, and it puts the water on it. And sometimes it takes a whole day to straighten this if it's really bad. Okay. So you can see it's out 10 thou now. Okay. 9 thou, almost 10 thou out. Okay. Whereas before it was only 6. So again, we're gonna let this cool down, and the heat's gonna sink through there, and then we'll come back to that. Like I said, I might get the pump set up, but you don't want to be doing this when anything's hot. Okay, it's you want to make sure it's normalized 100%. Cool. Further ahead to not do as much than you are to do too much. Okay, so I mean, you've seen how much it grew where it was up to 10 thou. Okay, so what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the same thing. It's kind of hard because with the keys, this thing's trying to rotate a little bit. But okay. So at this point, I'm just going to try to get a little blue circle, and we're going to watch it grow. Okay. So you can see now, even with that small amount of heat, now it's 15 thou total indicator run out, right? So, we'll let it sit. Obviously, I can still touch this with my hand. The point of the air gun is to suck the majority of the heat out so it doesn't sink into the bottom of the shaft, and then you're left with a hot shaft all day, and you're trying to kind of not, you try to want to create pinpoint heat. So we'll try this, and then we'll come back probably in a few minutes. I'd recommend, like if this I have a feeling we're only going to need to do this, and this shaft will be good. But if I felt like I had to do a few more, I'd probably get my little water pump. Here we go. We just put another little dab of heat. We don't put it right on top. We just put it right beside. You can kind of expand this a bit, but almost think of it like you only have one chance to really stretch that material, and that's where I just moved it off to the side here. It's just, again, it's not like it's got one direct point where it's been bent. It's kind of a gradual bend, right? What we've done is I probably heated up a couple times there, 3 times, and we've got it right now when I've mapped it out. So this is about 2 thou here, total indicator readout. which means if it's up 2 thou, like giving you a total indicator reading of 2 thou, it's only out 1 thou. Okay, so so over here was the issue. We had it was at 6. So this is 3 thou total indicator readout. So what that tells me is we're out 1.5 thou. I think it's reasonable in this. You know, what you want to keep in mind when you're doing anything like this is, you know, understand where your bearings are in place. And I'll kind of lay it out here with this drawing. If, let's say right here you have your shaft is 10 inches long, and in that 10 inches, it's bent 10 thou. Okay, so what that means is for every 10 inches, you're going to be out progressively 10 more thou. Okay, so if you're out 100 inches, it'll be 100 thou. Okay, it multiplies. So that's why something like this becomes so important. Even too when you have things that are like overhung bearings. So we had a piece that was like this with a flange in it here, and this is there are 2 bearings here and here about 2 feet apart, and it was very critical that you get this straight, because if this was 5 thou out over 2 feet and this was 16 feet out, it'll be 8 times that on the bottom, and what it'll end up doing is not only do you have a bent shaft, is then you get issues with balancing, right? The total indicator readout, what that means, and why we only use half of that, and I'll explain it like this. Let's just say we have something 10 inches long. So here's 10 inches right here. Okay, we're gonna mark a line at 6 inches. So let's say we think this is half, right? So you see we got 4 inches and we got 6 inches. Now we're not out 2 inches, right? Because we're just gonna go the other way, right? If we go 4 and then this is 6, we're out half of the difference, which is 1 inch. Okay, so that's where, if you go in the half, that's the center. So that's kind of the same thing, right? This is measuring the high and the low. This is measuring the 4 and the 6 inches, right? And what we need to do is we need to adjust that so it gets to the 5 inches, which is right in the center, if that makes sense. So you can see right here, I only needed to heat this 3 times. I think that first heat that I did where it didn't blue anything, this is another one, and that was another one. Okay, and you can see again. So half of that, 1.5 thou over, this is about 14 feet long. That's going to be good.